Terror Beyond Part 2. Wow, this really went where I wasn't expecting. And this is really turns out to be a hot girl story. And here's what makes this hard. And I might not end up not really talking about the episode a lot. I mean, you watch the episode. But here's the thing. Now it starts tackling the ideas of faith and belief and gods and false gods and all this. And here's the thing. In superhero works, in paranormal, supernatural, superhero, all this sort of stuff. All this stuff is real. People can bend stuff with their minds. They can fly. It's a given. It's your suspension of disbelief. Okay, I'm just gonna go flat. I am not a believer in any. Dog, I'm trying to be serious, and you are playing with your squeak toy. Screw it. You're just gonna have to listen to the squeaking. I am what you would call an agnostic atheist. I do not know if there is a God, but I do not believe there is one. And that's just the real world and what I see around me and all the facts and science, and you can figure it out. Now, in the superhero world, you do have spells and all these things, and flight and all the paranormal and demons. I don't understand in that world. I mean, you could possibly believe it's science you don't understand or a different view. That's attacked. Some comics and characters who are supposed to be more scientifically minded have taken that there is no quote unquote gods. There are only hyperdimensional beings and things of that nature. But the nature of belief and even souls. They have souls. In many stories, they have or like when they brought back Green Lantern in the comics. Yeah, his soul's in heaven. I don't know how you portray atheism in that world. I understand not bowing or kowtowing and the lack of faith. And Hawk Girl is very clearly painted as an atheist in this. And they kind of go back, and I don't think they give her case strongly enough. When smacked in the face, it's a complicated issue because when you start dealing with atheism in the context of a story where all these things are possible, it seems to not carry weight and almost weakens the position. But at the same time, it's good to have that outlook out there, and they don't go outright and say she's wrong, so I can't say they're saying it's bad. They're not saying it's bad. They're playing all perspectives, and it's it even has the whole. There is a debate. It's not like atheists. I mean, there are gatherings of people, but there's no rule book to it. There's no system. So it's just a bunch of people, and you can get two atheists, and they'll constantly debate the minutiae of what it is to be an atheist. You can get a bunch of them together. But more than once they've had the discussion and of what do we say to someone who's dying, who does believe and starts talking about it. We go, Grundy is dying. I don't think he stays dead. Spoiler. Already, at the beginning of the show I said I was going to, I said spoilers were inevitable if I was going to talk about the episodes way back in I think episode 1. But his reincarnation is part of his thing, and they have reincarnation, and it's just it's one of those things. Is how do you balance it out in this kind of this story? This world? But so he dies, and he's talking about his soul, and is it waiting for him at his death because apparently he doesn't have it, and and Hawkgirl has Grundy, I don't, and she stops and she cries because she's become attached to Grundy at this moment, and found his quote unquote humanity, uh, and she just stops and goes, yes. And there has been debates, and I really do appreciate that that's in this episode. I think they can kill Grundy, and he can come back. I think that's the reason they easily, that's part of his thing. I think that's why they chose that character, and it just worked well in part one because he has the lack of communication skills. So that helps that. So that's a really smart choice to have him be that character that's going to have that arc. It works perfect. But there is that debate of, do you sit there and go, if someone's like dying and they say pray with me, do you go, oh no, 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 I'm sorry, I don't happen to believe in your gods? Or do you respect this dying person who wants to share this moment with you, and just acquiesce? I mean, it may be even pantomime, and even if, and there's the other side of the coin. If I do this thing, if I if I fake having this belief, am I in some way desecrating uh, your belief? And it seems to me, and a lot of people, that in like a moment where someone is dying and they want you to pray with them, or if they ask you a spiritual question right at the end, it's okay. It's okay to lie to them and say, yes, I do think that this thing that that you don't really believe in uh, exists. It's not about. It's one of those moments. I was total train. I was at that wedding I talked about a couple episodes ago. I was there with my niece and nephew, and they're little kids, and they were getting super bored at the church. Super bored. And they wanted, because they, they don't like sitting. They especially don't like sitting dressed up. And so, and they were just getting fidgety the whole day. And one of the things I tried to explain to them, and probably bad parenting on my part, I tried to explain that today was not about them. That today you were doing something nice for someone else. You're showing up. You're this isn't about you. This is about someone else. I mean, that's how I can step foot in a church. I'm a non, like I said, I'm a non-believer, but I will, I can go into a church respectfully, for other people. I'm not going to burst into flame. I can walk into a church anyways, but when I go there and when I do these things, I'm respectful of the culture and what's being represented there. It isn't about, ooh, this, I don't like this place or I don't believe in this. It's more, I'm here for you. That is why I'm here. And that's the idea of the sentiment of the death moment. It's when someone's dying, it's not about you anymore. Let them have let them have peace. In the same way, it's if you reverse the question, if you were a believer and someone sits there and you start praying over someone's deathbed and he says, I don't want any of that. Don't do that. Don't dishonor me that way. Would you not pray and respect their wishes and not have that moment? If you thought that was so important to pray over them, would you pray over them in silence and not just in your mind, or would you honor them and their beliefs and even or even try not to pray or even pray silently, and where does the line in that? And it's all in here, and it's faith. And I'm not even talking about the episode or all the Cthulhu imagery, and I mean it's just pretty much Cthulhu and Lovecraft gone berserk. It's so much going on, and that's a whole nother video. And I don't have this. We're not gonna get into it because then this could turn into like a 40. I could talk hours about this, and I want just the topic of the faith element, and then I could do a whole nother hour on all the imagery, and the imagery is freaking tastic, and there's all the bodies figuring and horror and all these things, but it undercuts it with this emotional heart and this idea of spiritualism and the idea of faith. And what is faith to someone who doesn't believe in a God? The idea, well, I have my own, the argument. Oh, what is faith? And like, oh, atheists don't have faith. I have faith. I have faith that the Earth rotates, and that the sun will appear to rise every morning. It's been doing it for a good long time, as well before I was born, and hopefully well after I'm dead. So yeah, I mean, I can have faith. I can have faith that will continue. Seems very. It's kind of like I'm doing like Vegas, playing the odds, but just this whole thing. But the one like I said, when you put this all into a superhero, where there have been souls and spiritualism and quote unquote gods, where does prayer? Where does atheism fit in that? I mean, it's never a complete total. I don't believe in this. I mean, and that's not even atheism. Then atheism is the rejection of a god, but or I guess that is atheism. But most atheists, a good lot. Whenever you say most atheists, you're running into dangerous territory, because, like I said, there is no consensus. But a lot of them are skeptical, and this is part of skeptical thought is and the reason they don't believe is all the science and evidence that doesn't lead to anything that necessitates a deity. That said, and this is I think it was Evan Bernstein. You can look him up. Part of the Skeptics Guide to the Universe. He really had this line, and I'm sure someone else said it before, but this is the first time I saw it. And I never really watched the X-Files. It wasn't my thing, but they had that. She was the Gillian Anderson. Scully was always the skeptical character. They didn't believe in any of this stuff. But it was Evan Bernstein who said it on one of the episodes, and like I said, someone else probably said it before. She's a case of a bad skeptic, because in front of all this evidence that is repeatedly put in front of her, firsthand, all this stuff, all these things, she still has that hard nose. This is all, there is no magic, there is no, telekinesis or micro. When she's certainly been seen throughout the course of the series that is not the case. That there are these elements, there is aliens or whatever. Or, like I said, it would be a stronger point for me to make if I knew the show better. But the idea that the skeptic is this hard line in the face of opposition. There's no, that's not the opposite. When if a skeptic is proven wrong, the true idea of what the skeptic will do is acknowledge what they are wrong, and then move on. If you can prove how it works, why it works, and you can repeat and you can explain it, and you can prove it exists, the skeptic should have no problem. The skeptic should go, okay, you're right, I'm wrong, I now am on your side. That's it. This one thing's running long. Watch the episode. It's really good, and if you think about it, it's got a whole bunch of good stuff. Alright, bye.